Alright, so nobody asked for my opinion, but I'm going to give it to you free of charge. So, pretty privilege is a topic of which I've been seeing online for the past couple months or so, and it's just the reaction it's had about people coming out on like TikTok and stuff. It's like, oh my gosh, I have pretty privilege, and how you know you're the ugly one, and even the whole like you're not ugly, you're just poor thing. I have my own opinions on these topics about just being physically attractive within itself. Alright, I'll start with, what do we perceive as attractive? Now, of course, there's the whole westernized beauty standard and all that stuff you already most probably heard of, but it's also how we perceive these beauty standards. Because let's be honest, just because somebody has blonde hair and blue eyes does not make them automatically attractive. That doesn't automatically make them unattractive too. It's just it's presented in a way that we are used to seeing in like media and stuff as attractive. But also, there are people who are very attractive who aren't represented in the media, which goes to show that there are different definitions of a attractive or a pretty person to different people. But pretty privilege within itself is about something more than that. It's about how when people see an attractive person, whether it be because they are attractive because of the beauty standard or because they just see them as an attractive and how they react to them. Why do people react to attractive people the way that they do? Now, let's be honest. Not all people who see attractive people react to them with kindness and stuff. There are people who will go out of their way to be fake, mean, or bitchy to them as well because of jealousy, or they feel like, oh, you're attractive, you've always gotten this, that, and the third. And if the attractive person voices their insecurities or that, oh, I'm not doing so good here, they're just like, what do you have to worry about? You're hot as hell. You're cute. And it's just, a lot of things get deflected because you're attractive. My personal experience with pretty privilege comes from one of my siblings. My brother is very attractive, something which annoys me because we go out and everybody's like, I noticed when I was a kid, everybody'd be like, oh, smiling and laughing with him, and want to hang out with him, want to do this with him. Yet, they look at me, he's like, oh, is that your brother? So it was very uncomfortable for me. And whenever I voice these concerns, my family always be like, oh, why don't you try and dress nicer or whatever. And it's just, the point they're missing is I don't want to be perceived as beautiful or pretty by random people all the time. I just would rather it not be such a blatant and glaring divide, So that's how it is. And from personal experience, I don't treat somebody who's prettier than somebody else different from somebody who's uglier than somebody else just because of their looks. But that doesn't mean that I don't treat prettier people different. I've noticed this within myself. And with everybody, if you see an attractive person, they're going to get your attention. You're going to want to see what else they got going on, Is it just the face? Is it the body? Is it the attitude? Do they have personality to go with this, And people will automatically be drawn to them. And that within itself is dangerous too, because, alright, let's get into Ted Bundy. So, in my personal opinion, Ted Bundy was ugly as hell. But that's just my personal opinion, and anybody else I've shown. If you show Ted Bundy's picture to random people on the street, try that out. Because with me, people just like, who the fuck is that guy? No one cares. He's just like an average looking guy. But for some reason back then, white women were going crazy as hell for him. And people were going, oh, he's so charismatic and shit. While he was killing people and having sexual relations with dead bodies. So... And he got so much media coverage because of this. It's just like, why are we coddling this? Why? And then you also have the reactions, which no one really talks about, is when Ted Bundy had the death sentence and all these people were outside the facility in which he was held and cheering because he was dead. And that is because a lot of people were acting counter to his perceived attractiveness. There are people like me who didn't find him attractive at all, who didn't find him charismatic, and there are people who did find him attractive and charismatic, but hated that was used as an excuse for him to get all these interviews and people having fan clubs and stuff for him and people using his name here and there. It's also, with pretty people, I've noticed, the more attractive you are, the more admirers you're going to have, but the more dangerous your haters are going to be, you know. You don't get just like regular fake people or haters. You get people who literally loathe you because they perceive you as attractive, and you get away with murder. You literally can get away with murder just because of how you look to people. Or it's just stupid within itself, okay? It's stupid within itself. And then let's get into another thing about attractiveness in itself, like the celebrity attractiveness. Like how, let's take Jay-Z and Beyonce, for instance. Everybody knows Jay-Z done cheated on Beyonce multiple times, you know, and I'm not here to get into all their business, but what I'm saying is people are always like, oh my gosh, Beyonce? He cheated on Beyonce. How did he cheat on Beyonce? That's Beyonce, you know? And it's just like, yes, Jay-Z is not as fortunate looking as most people would expect Beyonce to get with a man. And yes, Beyonce is very, very, very beautiful and gorgeous. But at the same time, that has nothing to do with how people inherently feel about you. Because let's look at it like this. If you have a friend or a family member or partner who's like very, very good looking, and you spend enough time with them, or you just been around them so long, after a time, the way that they look does not matter. It literally, it's just because you look good and you're on all magazines and stuff, at home, you're just the wife, you're just the girlfriend, you're just the mother, you're just a friend. People see you different to your looks, more and more and more. After a time, your looks begin to phase out with the people that matter most to you. Because let's be honest, pretty privilege rarely exists with the people that matter most to the said person that is getting all this privilege, you know, because they know you. But that's not to say that it doesn't happen. There's been, unfortunately, a lot of favoritism with children, family members, because of how somebody looks. But that doesn't mean that they actually love you for you. They love you because of your looks, but you yourself are just as common as them. Another thing is the difference between how attractiveness is perceived between men and women. Now, this may seem I'm rambling and jumping a bit for bit because I am, but this is just on my mind. So, pretty privilege for men, as I spoke before, my brother, is very different, okay? Because especially for men, because women perceive physical looks a lot more intensely in certain cases than men do for women. I'm not saying that they perceive it more important than men do. I'm just saying it's very intensely different. Women see an attractive guy and they want to be with him. They want to procreate. They want to show him off and yada, yada, yada. And it's even gotten to the point where it's insulting. It's where a guy, just because he has green eyes, or he's good looking, or he's tall, or, you know, he's got a symmetrical face, everybody's falling all over him. You know, ass is being thrown at him left and right, and he's gonna become an asshole. Like, and it starts at a young age, because you always see when it's that cute looking boy, and everybody's like, oh, he's gonna be a ladies' man, all girls gonna love him. It's just like, if you coddle them at that age and letting them know that because they look good, everybody's gonna do whatever the fuck they want for him, you're already building up his ego. There's nothing wrong with having an ego, it's just the way that it's built up. Because he's gonna believe that he can do whatever the fuck he wants to anybody and get away with it because of how he looks. And that is the case for a lot of people. Like, let's look at abusive relationships as well. Because I've seen women who will literally get the shit beat out of them, but they won't leave because, and it's not even like physical abuse, it's all like mental, and the dude will cheat on them over and over again, but they won't leave him because he's that fine or he's that attractive. Like, oh, I will leave him, but oh, he's so fine, and it's just like, there has to be a certain point where that doesn't even matter anymore, right? But if the reason that you got with this person is because of their looks, then that's just how it is. That's as deep as your relationship is gonna be. And another example of pretty privilege around men is like the prisoners who were locked up for a reason now, getting bailed out to model. Like, there was this case, I don't know if it was like 2016, 2017, probably sooner than that, where this guy with green eyes, you know, his mugshot was floating around, and everybody's like, oh my gosh, he's so fine. Oh my gosh, he's so cute. And, you know, he ended up becoming a famous model and stuff. That's an interesting story within itself, except that he was locked up for a reason. This dude had multiple counts of child molestation, domestic abuse and violence, and a bunch of other really nasty shit going on. He's a monster, yet nobody cared because of how the fuck he looked. And then there was also Nicki Minaj started dating him, which, you know, I didn't really have an opinion of Nicki Minaj prior. I mean, I liked some of her music, you know. I don't really like to get invested in celebrity shit, but when I saw her dating him, I was just like, what the fuck is she on? You know, this is when you start questioning people. Like, okay, he's good looking and all, and I just started questioning everybody who was just like, oh, he's so fine. And people were even making like molestation and abusive jokes. It's just like, that's how you know how stupid society can be. And this sort of thing still happens. There are little modeling agencies that are going out of their way to find attractive prisoners to bail out. It's literally a whole thing. It's with women too. And it's just like, most of these people were locked up for a legit reason. They're killers, they're rapists, they're pedophiles, they're horrible, horrible, sick people. Yet they're being let out because of how they look. It's just very, very stupid. Next one is the whole you're not ugly, you're just poor thing, which I have some gripes with that, you know. First off, people who genuinely believe that a lot of these celebrities have puberty, they need to get some things worked out within themselves as well. And on top of that, we have to understand Hollywood has a definition of beauty that is different from how normal people perceive a good-looking person. But yet, because of Hollywood control is basically the media itself, we perceive their version of beauty as beauty, even if it's not real. Like the Kardashians and the Jenners and everybody getting that fake ass stuff. If you've actually seen pictures of them, unedited pictures of them just walking around, their backsides look they look fucking weird. Their bodies look weird and unnatural. It looks like that shit's gonna fall out at any second. Yet on the internet it's perceived as normal. Like if somebody has a fat ass, it's supposed to look like that. Like that's, people were literally making fun of people with actual bodies, like Megan Thee Stallion and even Doja before she lost weight. You know, it's just like, that's how real asses look. And it's really sick to me that people, and that's just the body, but just let's look at the faces. First off, people talking about how Ariana Grande didn't get anything done. Now it's blatantly obvious that she's gotten shit done, but like even before, it was just like, if you even suspect it, okay, and I'm not mean like in a hating way, but just like, you just like, that doesn't match up to the picture she took last year. And I'm not talking about comparing pictures from when somebody was like 5 to them being like 35. I mean like picture from 1 year back to back. You look drastically different. Like your nose didn't look like that last year. You know, something obviously happened. And the same thing with even K-pop idols in the industry. It's like so taboo to talk about plastic surgery. Yet Korea is like the world's largest place for plastic surgery. So something's happening. Somebody's getting it. And not just somebody, but a lot of people are getting it. And there's literally whole compilations of before and after pictures of these K-pop idols. And the before and after is not over like a large expanse of time. This is literally like months or at most a couple of years later. Their entire physique, bone structure and everything has changed so drastically. And people are just like, oh, it's puberty. It's not puberty. Puberty does not do that to you. Puberty helps fully shape the way that you're meant to be biologically. As in, if you're a man, biologically, your body's going to help develop from boy to man. If you're a girl, biologically, your body's going to help you shape from girl to young woman. And that's just how it is. And people saying puberty is a thing are just because they want to believe that these looks are attainable. And they're not. They're not attainable because they're not real. All right? And people just worship the way people look so much. That's why plastic surgery is such a big thing now, because people are so obsessed with how people look And it's like, there's nothing wrong with somebody looking good. There's nothing wrong with there being a beautiful person, but it's just the way people perceive it. It's like, oh, if you're beautiful, then everything will go right for you. And that should not be the case. Looks should not be the most important thing in your life, especially with how trends and things cycle out, you know? Like, there's a case of, I forgot her name, Brooke Shields. It's Brooke Shields. But she was like the gorgeous, child star, the gorgeous young woman. Everybody wanted to look like her. Everybody, she had the look. But the moment she started getting older, you don't hear about her anymore. Now when you hear people reference her, it's because of older pictures of her from like the 80s or the early 90s. And it's just like, she's not an ugly older woman either. It's just, if you're defined by how you look in your youth, then aging isn't going to be seen as natural or graceful. Aging is going to be seen as a regression. If the height of your physical appearance is when you were like 19, 17 years old, that's it for you, because you're not meant to stay a child for that long. You're not meant to look like a child for long. And if that's perceived as the height of your physical appearance, then that in itself is wrong. And it's just messed up to me, because there are plenty of people who were like in their 70s and 60s and stuff, and they look fine. They look good as hell. You're supposed to age. It's normal. It doesn't make you ugly. Guys, it's normal. But everything is just about how it's perceived. And then the fact that looks and trends change so often, people be getting these permanent changes to themselves over a trend. And it's just like, this will phase out. Trust me, it will phase out, and you will be looking busted. And you look busted now, but you're gonna look even more busted when it's not trendy. So, the whole pretty privilege and just perceived attraction itself, I understand why attraction does have semblance of importance, because it's attraction. It's how the better looking you are, the easier a lot of things are. But why is that such a big deal? Why are people so obsessed with how people look, especially with how unnatural it can be as well? Like, okay, a perfect case of this is Kim Kardashian. Pre all the plastic surgery and stuff, she was a pretty good looking girl. No one's gonna say, oh, she's busted as fuck. No one's gonna say that. Megan Fox as well, Angelina Jolie, and I can name off a bunch of others. Nobody's gonna say them people were busted. For some reason, I don't know the reason, somehow, some way, they thought that they needed something done, and they got several things done. And now, unrecognizable, unrealistic, and if you were to see them in real life, and let's be realistic, if you were to see Kim Kardashian's entire torso in real life, you would think that something wrong happened, that something terrible happened to her. You'd ask if she was okay. So it's just very disappointing in how, like, the further we go into like the internet and stuff, and pretty privilege has always existed, it's gotten to the point where it's not even an obtainable beauty anymore. At first people would be like, oh, it's makeup and photo doctoring, or it's good genes or whatever. Now it's literally going in and having your bone structure chipped away and removed, plus photo editing. So it's not real. None of it is real. And that's just one look of it. Other looks of it are just people who are naturally beautiful, and people still praise that. And it's just like, you shouldn't praise somebody because of how they look. And I will stand by that until the day I die. You should not praise people on how they look. All those fairy tales and stories about, oh, she was the most beautiful lady in the land. And I always, as a kid, found that so, like, a backhanded compliment. So, she's the most beautiful chick in the land, and that's it. So she's beautiful as hell. We're all supposed to just be, like, all over our backs and, oh my God, the beauty. It's just, to the day I die, I don't think that looks should be praised, okay? I think, because a person is more than their looks, all right? a person is more than their looks. Just because somebody's good looking doesn't make them an angel. It's just how they physically look and how we perceive how they physically look. Because, like I said with Ted Bundy, I think that man is ugly as fuck. Yet there are so many women, white women, capping for him. And it's just, and that's how it is everywhere. Everywhere. Trust me, there are plenty of people out there who think that Kim Kardashian is ugly. That's just how a society deems someone pretty, okay? Kim Kardashian is ugly, and ugly people are pretty, or regular people are pretty. It's just how it's perceived, okay? So let's not focus too much on how people look, and instead focus on what are we gonna do with how we perceive how people look. And it's not the fault of the people. I want to add this in as a disclaimer. It's not the fault of the people who are good looking naturally or unnaturally. It's not their fault. Well, the unnatural ones, they do buy into this whole thing. But I'm just saying it's not their fault. The fault is how people constantly make it as though having better looks means something. The reason that pretty privilege exists is because there are unpretty people who put people on this pedestal. And I honestly think that we shouldn't do that. Just because somebody, I'm not saying we should call everybody ugly. I'm just saying that just because somebody is better looking than somebody, that doesn't mean we should treat them any differently. It's literally just a biological defect. And we shouldn't treat people any different just because of how they look. Of all things, how somebody looks should not be the deciding factor on how we treat somebody. In any way, whether good or bad. Okay, we shouldn't hate on somebody just because they look good. We shouldn't praise the ground on which these people walk on just because they look good. It does not matter. The moment you close your eyes, that shit does not matter, okay? That's all I have to say about the whole pretty privilege thing. All in all, I think the whole perception of beauty is stupid. It doesn't matter what culture. If beauty is seen as something that is the deciding factor in praise or hatred, then it's stupid. Goodbye.